Good afternoon. We are live. Thank you for joining us on Untapped once again. I'm joined by Sean Simpson at Veeam.
Hello, Ernesto. How are you today?
Doing fine, Sean. Thanks for coming on again.
It's
I
my
think it's the
pleasure.
third episode.
Correct. Yep. Yep.
Fantastic, fantastic.
Very
Well,
fun.
absolutely. And we have an amazing topic today on Untapped. Really, it's how to achieve the 3-2-1 backup rule with Veeam Cloud Connect backup. Um, Again, the focus today for all you joining in is why an effective backup strategy is essential risk mitigation strategy for all organizations, one that could be very costly if ignored. What we will show you is how to enable offsite backup with a few simple clicks from the Veeam Backup Replication UI, seamless and integrated. And that's why we're asking you to join us for the next 25 to 30 minutes while we go through the whys and the hows and get and go and drive through a quick demo.
Exactly. So make sure you stay till the end so you can see how easy it is, and we're going to share that with you as well.
Absolutely. So, agenda, some housekeeping, right? So, 25, 30 minutes, what we'll cover is why the 3-2-1 rule is necessary, why the 3-2-1 backup rule. Cloud Connect backup key capabilities. We'll drive through those capabilities so we understand a little bit more on how integrated it is and what the technology is all about. We'll look at the design and deployment tips. Sean will drive us through the design and deployment tips, and you'll get a better understanding of what it takes to lay out and what it takes to move your data from your on-site premise to off-site to a service provider. And then we'll drive through again the demo where we'll showcase how you connect to a service provider and how that repository shows up in your Veeam backup replication interface and allows you to move to the next step and moving that data offsite. And last but not least, if you have any questions, feel free to keep it interactive. Feel free to ask those questions in the chat, and we'll look at those and we'll review those questions at the end of the discussion, and we'll definitely try to answer as many as we can.
Sounds great.
So, Sean, the customer challenges in 2022. This is a slide which we've seen. We highlighted this slide on our last Untapped, and it's something that I'd like to show, or start the presentation with because it is, the four major challenges that organizations are 2022 with the advent of digital, the advent of working from home. I think it's key to understand that everyone needs zero tolerance for downtime and data loss. Ransomware, it is something that a lot of organizations are struggling with. A lot of organizations are facing those ransomware attacks, so we need to keep that backup data safe from it. Not only have that backup data, but really keep it safe. And then we have the compliance team that are working with the IT teams really and driving those demands on meeting those long-term retention compliance and those retention goals. So you have that driving force that that those compliance teams working with the IT teams really driving those demands and really recovery despite storage and staff constraints, which is huge in 2022, right? A lot of organizations are facing those staff constraints and capex expenditures, right? You order hardware and it takes forever to get there, right? So the truth is that many organizations are still not ready to deal with the unexpected events, right? Events like we talk about natural disasters, hurricanes, earthquakes, freezing rain. These are the type of events you want to prepare for. Technological disruptions, loss of a data center, data breaches, or other IT security related events, right? So
Yep.
then this needs to change. Will drive you through or will help you understand how you can take that first step because backup is your last line of defense when it comes to these type of
So
disasters
true.
when it comes to ransomware, right, Sean?
Yeah, and to be perfectly honest with you, most people take the attitude as, it's not going to happen to me. It's kind of like when you see a situation and you have that moment of realization that that could be me, or you see an accident and you say, oh my God, if I was 5 minutes earlier, that could have been me. And we always take that approach. Now, I personally live my life in this world where I think if I prepare for certain things, I have less risks of it happening because I'm prepared for it to happen. And I think that's the way you have to think. And that's really what the premise of the 3-2-1 rule is. If you think about it, right? It's really being prepared in the event that that ransomware happens, right, Ernesto? And then at least you can play out that scenario.
That's absolutely it, right? And this is what we do, right, every day, and it does happen. So you have to drive through those use cases. You have to understand, you know, it's not one size fits all, right?
Right.
You need to move your data offsite. It's key and it's critical, and it's part of that 3-2-1 rule. But there are different use cases, and the organization needs to work with the business, and the IT departments need to work together to understand which applications are critical, drive through those applications, test them on a regular basis, right? And again, it does, what I'm saying does highlight the key points that we have on the board, right? So cyber insurance, it's another security control. It's another control that organizations put in place in order to protect, right?
Right.
Uh, it's not technology, is an element needed in order to have protection. And when you do, fill out those cybersecurity, cyber insurance forms, there's three key questions when related to when it comes to backup. One of them being, are your backups kept separate offline in a cloud service or designed for this purpose, right? So if the question is there and it does occur, there's a good chance that the cyber insurance companies are not in this. They're not in business. They're in business for making money, right? So if those requirements are necessary to fulfill, those requirements are necessary to demonstrate to the cyber insurances that these key policies are put in place. If not, they will not pay, and you can suffer some real damage. So again, we're setting expectations. It is something that a lot of organizations are dealing with, struggling to deal with. So that's why we put a lot of emphasis on being protected.
Yeah. You don't want to get to the point where you're putting in a claim, right, for these services. Like you mentioned, Ernesto, they're in the business to make money.
Right.
So it's not easy to put a claim in. Like you have to check all the boxes and go through all the paperwork. And, on the back end, you have to keep a business running, right? So you're
Absolutely.
trying to balance everything. And we know that statistic that comes up that a majority of businesses, when they have a disaster, within what, 3 years, they're no longer in existence. We don't want to
That
get
is
to
a
that point.
statistic. That is a statistic. Absolutely, Sean.
That's scary statistics. And when we talk about the 3-2-1 rule, I'll even throw in one more number. I'll throw in zero at the end, right? And zero would mean the one that you can go through and check these boxes, right? Do I have a copy offline? Check. Are our backups taken monthly? Check. Have I tested? That's the big one. Have
That's the
I
big one.
tested? Is the data good? And Ernesto, I talk about like when I started in business continuity disaster recovery at a traditional data center where customers brought the tapes in. I always said one of the biggest things that they always learned was there was no data on the tapes. That was the zero.
Hard
And
lesson.
yeah, and they would get upset, right? They'd say, "Oh, we wasted all this." No, you didn't, because if you didn't do this test, you'd never know that you had no data. But today, it's a lot easier, right? Like you said, one size doesn't fit all. But I think you'll agree nowadays there's so much flexibility in
Yeah.
where you can store the data, how you can store the data, how you can test, that there's really no excuse not to
No,
do this. And
no,
I think you would
definitely.
agree, especially organizations like yourself that can help people do this and make
Well,
their life a lot easier.
that's what it's all about. It's about creating awareness, Sean. A lot of organizations. You mentioned tape, right? A lot of organizations are still doing it that
Correct.
way. Not that it's not a good technique. Like you mentioned, the last point is being able to test, and that's where it could become overwhelming. It could become costly, right? When you digitize the experience with Cloud Connect Backup, it allows you to digitize the experience, have the data available at all times, and be able to do those tests on a regular basis, right? And again, last point on the cyber insurance requirement. However, I think, like you mentioned, it's the most critical one.
Yep, and like you said, having if you're doing it to the cloud backup with like Assurance IT, you're going to have the resources. So let's just hypothetically say it is a natural disaster, right? And first and foremost, whenever there's a disaster, the people that work at an organization, their families, their number one priority, right? So there's people within your organization that can help them through this. Where let's just hypothetically say you take this to a public cloud or something like that. You don't know where the data lives. Good luck trying to get someone on the phone when you have an emergency, right? So there's that white glove sort of hand holding
Yeah,
experience, the people experience, right? That you're still going to get
absolutely,
with Cloud Connect Backup, which I think
absolutely.
is huge when people ask me the advantages. Why?
When you're faced with a situation in real life, and you need expert advice, you call a lawyer, right?
Correct.
And you hope the lawyer answers, right? In this
Yep.
case, you want somebody that has experience in this industry and can guide you through it, because it is a panic state, right? It
Hmm.
is a state where, as much as you can go ahead and test it internally within IT, the business is not ready. So you need to have that incident response plan, right? In order to drive you through the steps, the process. But again, that's why we're here today. We're here to help them. We're here to work with, have them understand, have our users understand, have the Veeam users take advantage of this feature, and it leads us to Cloud Connect Backup, right? How we can achieve these 3-2-1-1 rule, right? With
Yep.
Cloud Connect Backup, and Sean will take us through and understand a little bit more about the technology.
Yep. So here, we have sort of a flow chart of where we could see Cloud Connect Backup fitting in. And on the top right there, we do see Cloud Connect Backup. Now, Cloud Connect Backup allows you, as a organization, with whether you already have Veeam software or whether you have it from a service provider, but you have the ability to get a copy of your data, a backup copy of your data off site. Now, when we talk about the 3-2-1 rule, it's three copies of your data on two different types of media and one off-site. Zero would be testing with no errors, so we could add a zero in there. In this particular rule, a lot of people see, a lot of people hear about, but the question is, do they practice it? With Veeam, as you can see in production, you might have VMware, you might have replication, backup, CDP, you might have a local copy of your data. So, for short-term retention locally, some sort of, powerful production type storage so you can
Yep.
recover quickly. And then we have the ability to get that backup copy off-site in the event that we have a total rubble situation at our main data center or we need to recover for some reason. We also have the ability to do one-click recovery of Exchange, SharePoint, SQL Server, Active Directory, and much more. We don't have to recover everything. We might only need to recover a specific server because, back in the day, a lot of time a disaster could consist of a single server crashing or a single server having a hardware problem. Virtualization wasn't as popular back in the day, right? So we couldn't just spin up a virtual machine. Now we could spin up the virtual machine and then recover that data from Cloud Connect back to the original location. So technology has allowed us to do this much quicker. Now, one of the things I like about Cloud Connect backup with Veeam is I have the ability to send my backup to a Veeam service provider. So I know where my data lives. So for data sovereignty reasons, for some sort of policies around the particular data, whether it's legal data, medical data, I could actually go to the service provider and they could say to me, this is where your data is. It's not like I'm sending it up to the magic cloud and it's going to the big players and it's saying, okay, well, your data's here. I can't tell you exactly which data centers it's in, but it's here. With this, you could pretty much know where it's going to be, Ernesto. And to me, that's a peace of mind, specifically depending on the type of environment that I'm backing up, from that standpoint.
Well, point, right? It's peace of mind and a requirement for many organizations, especially within Canada, right?
Yeah,
There's a lot of organizations within Canada with the data privacy laws coming into play that need to have their data reside in Canada, right? So we can
correct.
ensure that that data does reside in Canada. It's managed by Canadians, and we give you the ability to bring that data up and down, ingress regress at all times, so you can go ahead and test. So I appreciate the plug, Sean.
Hmm.
Fantastic. I know we've worked together for a couple of years, so
Yes,
we know we make it happen, and we're there to help at any point.
correct. Yep.
Veeam Cloud backup design and deployment tips. So, is the data secure? Right? Is that data being transferred secure? How does it work? Right, Sean, you can really drive us through this
Yep.
specific, these tips and what's happening during a Cloud Connect backup experience.
Yeah, so as you can see from the diagram down below, I mean, the nice part about this is the way that the communication takes place between the tenant and the Cloud Connect gateway, as you can see. So there's no additional VPN or anything like that that needs to be put into place. You're going to have a secure communication over SSL from your location to Assurance IT via what we call the Cloud Connect gateways. The Cloud Connect gateways are set up in a gateway pool so that the service provider, Assurance IT, can have multiple Cloud Connect gateways. This way we can ensure that there's plenty of bandwidth for incoming backups. So you're going to get the fast, consistent backups that you would expect without having to have issues, concerns, or delays. Again, that data can be encrypted in transit and then as well in rest so that you can be sure that your data is secure. From a data sovereignty standpoint, there are things that you can put in place within the Veeam software to flag, for instance, if for some reason, if that particular data ever crossed into a repository or a proxy that was outside of Canada, it would flag that for you. So there are nice features within Veeam Beyond that can help you ensure that that data is living within the Canadian region, just to make sure. Also, it's a very efficient way to get the backups to the service provider. You don't have to invest in a second site for backups. So,
Yeah.
your data is going to live in, the Veeam repository. The data is not commingled. So there's no way for any other tenant to see any other tenant's data. So it's secure, it's safe. Like I said, it's encrypted and send the data through a secure SSL connection, no VPN. It's complete visibility and control. So you, as the end tenant, can fully manage this. You can set it up. You can set your retention. You can have access to your data. It can be, if you need support, if you need help, that's there as well.
Yeah.
Um, there is the ability to leverage what we call WAN acceleration for any small bandwidth requirements, but in most cases, the WAN acceleration is not required. And we can do it for forever incremental backups and more. So we can set the retention, we can keep the backups, we can make sure we have the data for you can meet the requirements that you need based on any type of regulations that you have. And in most cases, like Ernesto said, the data is accessible and the fees are minimal compared to, I would say, compared to some of the larger public cloud offerings from that perspective.
From yeah, that makes a lot of sense, right? From that perspective, right, and especially the way Assurance IT does it, right? We uh, there's no egress and regress charges because the goal is to move your data offsite is essential, right?
Hmm.
But really, like you said, to restore and test is key, and that's what they need to purchase. That's what an organization needs to purchase: the ability to restore at all times, and we offer that as an all-in price, right?
Yep.
That's number one, and the second part, it allows companies to move from a capex model to an OpEx model. Just procure what you need today, and as you grow, you grow with the organization. You grow with your partner versus having to purchase that terabyte up front for 5 years and have those capex expenditures because we know cash is limited these days, and it's just organizations are shifting towards that OpEx model. So this gives you that advantage from a financial perspective.
And and we don't want to hold the data hostage, right? Like we it's your data, so you should have accessibility to it. There's other providers that might, like, some people always want, well, like, Veeam doesn't, Veeam is hardware agnostic, right? Pick and choose what you want to do. That's for a reason, Ernesto, because
Yeah.
you know it's your data. You can pick and choose how you want it to be stored, where you want it to be stored, what type of hardware, what type of storage. So it gives you the flexibility. And this is just one additional piece of that when you
Oh,
use
for
Veeam.
sure, for sure. And last live we talked about CDP, and there's another example. You know, again about keeping your data hostage. Now you can do near zero backups,
Correct.
leveraging the software. So you're not tied into the storage vendor anymore, right? So it's
Correct.
all about being open. It's all about the data belonging to
Flexibility,
the
like you said.
organization and giving them the ability to do what they need to do with it when they want to do it, when they
Yep.
want to do it, right?
Yep. And in most cases, depending on the version of Veeam you have the flexibility to do that. Like you said, the backup, the snapshot based backup and replication, as well as the API based, like we talked about last time, the Cloud Connect backup. So really, with one single solution, you can get everything that you need in a single view.
Yep, absolutely. We're doing great on time, Sean. We're
Yep.
at 20 minutes. We're in the demo.
Perfect.
So, a couple of key points. I know you're driving through the demo this afternoon. A couple of key points. One, integration. Again, you'll notice that this is for Veeam users. This is the backup or replication console. No third-party software. No additional place where I need to maintain and manage. Everything's integrated in the backup replication console. It is integrated into your backup plans. So if you have a backup, you can add a secondary copy. There's a little tab to add a secondary copy when you do create those backup plans. So we'll show you the integration first. We'll drive through the integration, how to connect your Veeam backup replication portal to a service provider with just a few simple clicks. Service provider, assurance IT, we will select property. So we'll drive you through the wizard. So where would you like to connect? Next, as you mentioned, the SSL authentication. Here it is. There is a certificate so we can ensure security. Once it establishes communication with the service provider, you are presented with your storage requirements. So in this case, we're looking at 1 terabyte of capacity under repository AIT MTL2. Okay, so for this specific customer, he also has a hardware plan. A hardware plan is for Cloud Connect replication, which, Sean, you ready for the plug? We're going to be going through this next month on our next live. So we can tune in and understand how you can take advantage of the same similar approach, same similar UI, and perform replication to a service provider. But we'll stay focused on backup storage. So you drive through the wizard, next, and you'll notice that once it is added and you scan the service provider, you will see an additional backup repository. There it is. AIT at Assurance IT at 1 terabyte. So along with the local repository, you have your cloud repositories in one single UI, one single place. So once that's done, what do I do next? Right? So how do I enable my jobs to be able to send that data offsite? Do I need to create new jobs? No. Do I need to tax the VMware or the Hyper-V environment to extract that data to send it offsite? Sean?
Nope.
No. It's as simple as creating a backup copy job. So as
If we're going to
backup copy
leverage the data that's already there, right, Ernesto? We're not going to reinvent
data
anything. We're
copy
not
of
going
the
to make
backup.
this
That's
simple.
exactly it. Simple as that, right? So as you can see, I have a couple of different jobs in the UI. We'll go ahead and so it's as simple as creating a new backup copy job. And you have two options, right? You have the immediate copy, and it's similar to creating a backup job. So you have two options: immediate copy, which is mirroring, or periodic copying. So immediate copy is the minute the job or the VM is available to send the data offsite, it will kick off, right? You could still manage those schedules. Well, you could still manage that data transfer with the schedule. However, it's immediate if your scheduling is left to allow all. And then you have the periodic copy. And the periodic copy allows you to set a time in a day where you want those backup copies to occur. If you like those backup copies to occur during 1 a.m. to 6 p.m., you can go ahead and set it and control it from this specific option.
Exactly. Yep.
We go to next, and you will notice that I am doing a copy job of my backup job. So ideally, in the backup job, you have a choice where to send your data to a second location, and this is where it is. We select next, and this is where you would go ahead and select that cloud repository where we went and we just added from the service provider. As you can see, you have the ability to visualize the amount of space that's available. You have the ability to choose how many restore points are required in order to meet your compliance needs. Again, they always ask me, Sean, what's the magic number, right? There is no magic number.
No, it's
There is no
proprietary.
magic number, right?
Depends, it depends on your storage, it depends on your budget, right? It depends on the requirements. It
Exactly.
depends, you could pick one and then realize 6 months from now that you need to alter that or change that or modify that based on the requirements that are coming in for restores or regulatory, right? I mean, it's a
100%.
moving target.
It's a moving target, and it's a moving target. It's something that you should not take lightly, because what we've been seeing and talking to cyber insurance companies over the last couple of months is that a lot of the attacks, the ransomware, the intruders are in for 1, 2, 3 months before they actually press the green light button or that
Yep,
red
it's like
button.
it's like a fire smoldering in the wall, right? And then one day,
Exactly.
bam.
You never know when it's going to ignite.
And that's when the panic sets in, right? And you got to figure out how far do we need to go back? When did
That's
this
correct.
happen?
So, in order to maybe secure yourself, or really deviate that risk, mitigate that risk, you can opt for GFS, right? And GFS could be, we have certain customers using GFS in two facets. One facet, the GFS is being used for compliance long-term retention. They back up fast backups on site the first 7 days, and they leverage the service provider to move that data off site, long term retention. Not again, the capacity not to have to buy large set of capacity on site. They leverage the cloud provider in an OPEX model in order to keep those costs down, those CapEx costs down, and grow and pay as you grow in a pay as you grow model. And then we have certain customers that leverage GFS really to protect against ransomware, as we just mentioned. So in the event of, the intruder gets in and he's in for a longer period of time, because there are those security controls in place that did not identify or raise the risk, raise the awareness that you can go back and retrieve data 1 month, 1 week, 1 month, 2 months behind, in order to protect your business, and not be one of those statistics that go out of business within the next 3 years. So those are the two facets where we see a lot of our customers using GFS. We move on to the next part of it, the data transfer, as you mentioned, Sean.
Most
WAN
cases.
Accelerator. I think 5% of our customers are using WAN Accelerator. I think the links are up. The links are pretty fast in North America. That it's typically not used. We see some of our customers in remote areas enabling the WAN Accelerator, but definitely not something that a lot of customers are using. But it's there if you do need it.
Yep.
And the last but not least is the schedule. You can really pick and choose, same as the backup wizard, pick and choose when you don't want to enable or disable your jobs. So you have control of the bandwidth and control of the job in terms of data transfers out to the cloud. And of course, we go ahead and select the finish button, and your job is ready and available to be processed. When your backup copy job terminates, you go ahead and it sends that data offsite.
Yep.
So did I hit on the 3 points that we identified at the beginning of the call?
I would think so. 100%.
Awesome.
100%. And you
Awesome.
can see it's very easy, menu driven, just like setting up a backup job. Um, Connect to the service provider. That repository shows up. You configure the backup job, and you've met
Well,
that
yeah,
three,
you
two,
met your
one rule.
requirements. You met your requirement. And one last point before we go. I guess we have a minute and a half left, and we'll drive into the if there are any questions or final stages. So this is where, similar to where you view your backups. So if you have backups going to this is where you identify them, and this is where you can see how many points you do have. When you do enable a cloud service provider, you'll get the little tab that says cloud, and ideally you can do the same.
Correct. Yep.
Provider, again, single UI, single pane of glass, get to visualize what you have in the cloud, what type of retention points you have in the cloud, and really get a better view of what your security posture is when it comes to offsite backup. And
Correct.
that's it. That's all, Sean. That's it for the demo. We'll
Yep.
try. We'll go back to the slide deck. There we go. Oh, let's get to the end.
Yep. Almost there.
And there we are. There we are. So recap, Veeam Cloud Connect backup. As you mentioned, you can leverage a service provider like Assurance IT for offsite backup, digitize that experience. Key points: move from CapEx to OpEx for backup, and that white glove service, right? We are business continuity experts, and we're here to support your DR initiatives. If you need more help, we are available. Our sales team is available. Feel free to reach out. You can find us on social. Questions, Sean? Let's go to the board. No, seems like we're good. Don't have any questions. I guess either we were clear, we were pretty clear in our messaging.
I think it went very well.
Awesome. And Sean, last but not least, I hand it off to you on what's next. What's our
Yep.
next untapped feature?
Yep. Coming up on the October 11th feature, 12 p.m. Eastern Time, we will be talking about Veeam Cloud Connect replication and DRAS. So we'll talk a little bit about how you can replicate your virtual machines to Assurance IT, and then be able to spin those up, fail over to those, fail back, and have near zero downtime with disaster recovery as a service. So if you like what you saw today, be sure to tune in for the next episode, and we'll continue to bring you great nuggets of information and how Assurance IT and Veeam partner to provide you with continuous availability.
Awesome. Sean, once again, a pleasure. Thank you very much for joining in.
Likewise, thank you for
And
having me.
look forward to our October 11th event. And I believe we're going to be joined with a special guest. So the minute we have confirmation, I'll put that. I'll go ahead and add it to LinkedIn Live. Feel free to register, join us, follow us on socials, and look forward to our next event. Thank you again for joining.
Thank you, guys. Look forward to it, Ernesto. Have a great afternoon.
You too, Sean. Bye bye now.